Hi everyone, my name is Rimeike, co-founder of Quantum Cybersecurity Skills. Today I have very interesting guest from quantum world. Maybe you should introduce yourself, Sudeept.
Hi, Emma. Thanks so much for inviting me. It's absolutely a pleasure to talk. So I am Sudeept Maharana. I am currently in a senior role in one of my large e-commerce companies. And I'm a technological person by heart, I'm a computer engineer of education. I'm also currently doing my PhD in application of quantum computing in business world. So totally makes sense. I'm really excited to talk to you and talk to everyone. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Look, let's dive straight into the quantum world, right? Why quantum? Why now?
Okay, very broad question. To be very honest, quantum has been a aspiration for computer scientists for quite a while. It is just now that the material science and kind of has evolved to a point where quantum computing looks more possible in the next 4 or 5 years. But theoretically, it was always possible decades earlier. Number one. Number two, information science, if you see the traditional information science, computer science as we call it, in quantum computing already calling it classical computers, are still based on zeros and ones, which is the basic building block. But if you see, like Richard Feynman said, the nature doesn't work in zeros and ones. Nature always works in grays and somewhere in between zeros and one. And the best way to emulate nature is not zeros and ones. It's possible somewhere gray, and that's where quantum computing comes in. It's not just zero or one; it's a continuum between zero and one, which quantum handles. That's what is more closer to nature. And so the theory is that quantum computing can more emulate the nature problems and take us that giant leap for mankind around what can be done from a nature perspective.
Nice. Okay. From your experience, because you have a very strong background in quantum, I've seen on your LinkedIn profile. From your experience, how would you define short terms and long terms for the business when they roll out initial project of quantum, you know?
Yeah, so it's slightly early. It depends on a little bit of a risk appetite of a company. So there are two kinds of businesses. There are large companies like Google, Amazon, Google, Amazon, Honeywell, who are currently focused big time into developing the quantum computing ecosystem and computer itself. There are also smaller startups which are spearheading the research around quantum computing and building a lot of quantum computing areas. But there are also companies in between who are trying to use them, like Volkswagen is using something, like some pharmaceutical companies are trying to do some pilot work on quantum computing. It's very, very new. I strongly feel, while the theoretical foundation of quantum computing is stronger, the material science foundation of quantum computing is not there yet, because quantum is still not very stable. It's still very error prone. It's still not out there. There are a lot of simulators in the world which allows companies to start building on it. So I think the best time right now is to allow your team across companies to allow team to go ahead and start simulating quantum environments so that they start getting a feel of it. But I guess the biggest, just like the semiconductor world shifted a lot when the material science shifted to transistors. Before transistors happened, computer science was kind of lagging. I think quantum computing is waiting for that one or two breakthroughs in this decade, which will kind of shift us forward. But the problem is when it shifts forward, are you working in a company which is not allowing you to experiment at all, or an company which is allowing you to take that leap and start evolving with it? So it's a good point.
Okay. I was speaking yesterday with someone also from quantum world. One of the things that stuck really in my mind was organizations, are sort of held back a little bit by jumping more on quantum projects because there is no defined quantum risk compliance requirements, and it just seemed to me initially a strange thing, but when you think in a big picture, Of course, allocating all the resources, time, and doing things, and then if it turns out everything is wrong on our side, and we need to go to the board and ask, same amount of money or more to correct things rightly, that could be ouch, you know.
Yeah.
So, where organizations should start if they are interested in taking advantage of quantum leap? Can they, can they leverage any existing infrastructure, software? Hardened gates is one of the elements connecting two
Of
words,
course.
right? But what's your experience and advice
I
on
think
this?
in the practical world, the best place to start possibly with like an IBM platform, Qiskit, which is pretty famous now. And there are, and then Microsoft's own platform called Q Sharp, if I'm not wrong. So there are multiple languages coming up, but out of all these languages, Qiskit is considered the most stable and the most advanced.
Yeah.
And IBM gracefully is giving a lot of access to the cloud and the material and the training content relatively cheap or free. So it's a great place for people to start. Today, quantum computing is full of enthusiasts who are trying to learn
Yeah.
it. And that's a great place to start because what the mistake I think most people are doing is quantum computing, people are not, the learning curve is big. It's not an evolution on your previous understanding of information science and computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unlike moving from, let's say, traditional computer science to, let's say, artificial intelligence, quantum computing is questioning the basic fundamentals of computer science. So to start from scratch, and people a little bit get frustrated there. That so I'm doing such gates which are like computer science would be like 50 years back, right? That's true. But until you know those basics, you will not be able to build bigger applications when the application becomes ready. So a Qiskit or a cloud-based platform is the best place to start, best place to experiment and start doing things. But be patient. It will take some time to evolve and mature. But yeah, fully supportive. Very excited about this new world.
Okay. Sudeep, I got caught by the banner on your LinkedIn, which said quantum machine learning is the next big thing. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, totally. So again, artificial intelligence, if you see artificial intelligence
Yes.
for a is out there, is used extensively. But you're already starting to see the limits of artificial intelligence, where most companies are trying to say that, okay, this is still, for a lack of a better word, is still like a reptilian brain, which is getting simulated in the computer science world. It is not a human brain yet, and there is no sign of becoming a human brain. Quantum machine learning can be that accelerator for machine learning, which will take it to the human brain capability of a computer. That's one. Number two, see, quantum machine learning is again interesting because of the same reasons I told earlier, because of the zeros and ones. AI, out of all the things, is still between zeros and ones. So all the numerical methods in the artificial intelligence world is basically a estimate of the mathematical formula. For example, random number generation, for example, probability calculations are all the closest estimate, right? In the quantum computing world, it's actually probabilistic to start with, right? And if you see, all machine learning is predominantly probabilistic. So quantum machine learning fits perfectly well with a probabilistic artificial intelligence, and that's where it will take giant leap and take it forward to the next level. That's why I think it'll be big.
I would like, again, this is a follow-up question on this, on quantum machine learning. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, currently with machine learning, one of the challenges is who is controlling the controller, who is auditing the algorithms, right? So imagine this on, even more higher capacity, if tell me your thoughts, what could be additional risks at what level, how to manage from your perspective based on your experience.
Very, very valid point, Eva. I think in the going a little bit few years back, if you see AI, the ethics around AI was not proactively handled handled a few years back. And
Mm,
we have come to a point in the AI's evolution where AI has become a great tool, but in the hands of wrong people, it might be
yeah.
used in a very wrong way. Thankfully, in the quantum computing ecosystem, there is an awareness of this even today, where they are saying that let's talk about ethics in quantum today. And there are a lot of good companies like Cambridge Quantum, they're actively pursuing ethics in quantum computing. And this is very important that most governments, most policymakers come together and start thinking about how to implement the guardrails for quantum computing to be more used for the good of people rather than for the bad of people. It requires a little bit of effort, but it's very important. It's very timely because
Mm,
unlike AI, we do not want that quantum computing is there and just like AI, it has evolved and become big, and now you're putting guardrails. It's a bit too late in the game.
yeah. No, no. And again, I'm thinking about the been some articles in the news about some of the recent hacks where hackers are not only interested in stealing data as usually, but they are messing around with integrity, with the
Totally.
logs, like,
Mm.
messing up the tracks, the information confused.com. Sorry, I probably I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to say that, but that's, and again, I'm thinking back to quantum and machine learning, that could be very powerful, I think, if this, but again, we need to help CISOs to start thinking about
Yes.
things like this because they are coming.
Yeah,
They
totally.
are coming. It's already there. Look at the major brands globally. They are leveraging quantum one way or another, either helping to discover medicines faster through quantum
Yes.
molecular approach, or
Yeah.
EVs,
Mhm.
automotive industry, how to improve electrical vehicles, and look at financials, maximizing the investment and so on. GPS tracking you, leading you,
Yeah.
giving you
Everywhere.
options. There are many, many examples already. So any again, we don't have a crystal ball, but anything you can comment on this. When hackers breach, mess around with integrity, and we are thinking from quantum ML perspective.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert yet because the industry is evolving so fast. It's
Yeah.
still trying to difficult to see how it will evolve.
Mm,
But what I feel is that um, you see, quantum computing, like I said, it challenges the fundamentals. So it becomes very difficult for the CISOs to sit down and re-engineer everything, right? And
yeah.
that's a big challenge for a CISO because unlike in the past, always there was a security layer on the application. It was not like addressing the core of it. But in quantum computing world, CISO has to start working with the core engines, not just at the application layer, but at the hardware layer to control quantum computing. And that might be a
Mm,
very, very big challenge. And cybersecurity will play a big role because cybersecurity, the whole concept around key and encryption, that theory itself will go for a toss. I mean, the way source algorithms solve certain things like that, it'll become very, very interesting how these things evolves. And it's important that it remains in the hands of good people who
yeah.
are able to use it for good reasons. Because there is a tendency that we have seen in the past also that the bad people use it faster, adopt it faster
Yeah,
compared to good people. So it will be more careful.
unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
the truth. This is why we have joined the movement. We're issuing early security alerts in efficient way, helping, contributing. We're discussing currently partnerships about going to universities, helping train students how to run security operations effectively and so on. So yeah, totally agree with you. So let's talk about CISO's perspective, okay? Bring in cybersecurity element into quantum world. Are we talking about, is quantum going to deliver safer keys and better cryptography, I think,
Mhm.
Encryption, I mean, or is it again, what challenges? What will be an additional element on the CISO's busy plate when quantum, is in action properly? What's
Right.
your?
So what happens today is most of the file encryption is very binary based. The idea is that even if you put the best computer on to break that encryption, it will take, let's say, 100 years, right?
Yeah.
And comes quantum computing, and that can do it in possibly in few weeks or few days, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just the speed of quantum computing; it's the capability of the probability handling of probability and simulations in quantum computing, which makes it more dangerous.
Mm.
Now, so the whole basic encryption methodology itself has to change, right? So there's a lot of research going on as to how can we counter it. But I think the CISO is currently focused. And then let's say someone, let's say a hacker, let's say bad element has a quantum computer, let's say 5 years down the line, and they're using a quantum computer to break into our system, then how would they stop it? Because it is like the David and the Goliath, right? You are fighting completely different scales. It's
Yeah.
not the same scale. So the
Yeah.
protection shield is not good enough. So the CISO has to really work with quantum computing industry, like the IBMs of the world or the startups, to start putting in the checks and balances today, and especially focusing on some key applications and making them ready for the quantum world. And because changing for all applications might not be as easy today, but at least now is the time to at least focus on some key applications and make sure they're stable and they are not penetrable from the quantum computing perspective.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, another question, if I may ask, is about security posture visibility, right? We all know it's a very hard job currently to achieve, accurate security and dynamic, I would say, security posture visibility. And here I'm not talking just about technology risks. I'm talking about, are my processes, critical processes, designed to withstand a time of crisis? My skills, my people, am I optimizing the talent pool? Are the skills, am I developing? Do I see the gap of the skills? Not only to cover the business needs for today, but for in the future as well, near future, further future. Also, quality of data. Is the data that I'm being presented in the reports is accurate, or it's a bit of mismatch, and yeah, so all those elements, business alignments, how we are doing from security services perspective. Is the business happy what we are doing? Do we need additional services on that? So again, thinking about quantum element, do you see quantum bringing a huge advantage and transformation to help achieve this? And again, maybe at the fingertips. Do you, what is your thoughts on this?
Too much predictive for the time being, because yes, quantum computing will revolutionize the industry for sure. How it will change is still not very concrete yet. We are still figuring out how it will change. We are seeing some, like you said, we're seeing some initial great achievements in the medical space and the transportation space, when humongous amounts of data are getting crunched, which was not possible in the AI world, are getting solved in the quantum world. But I see a world where it will be a coexistence between quantum computers and classical computers. So quantum machine learning and AI, classical machine learning will exist together. That's very important to know. Sometimes people think that quantum will come in and it will replace everything. It will not replace everything. Why? Because the certain math, simple math, which are binary based, are much better, cheaper, scalable in the classical computer world rather than quantum computing world. But the probabilistic simulation-based math is better done in quantum computing world and not as good done in the classical computing world. So there'll be a coexistence phenomenon. It will not be a one thing takes all. So yeah, it will be for both. It will not be one. So let's wait and see how it comes together.
We need that crystal ball, right? And the last question. So is quantum just for the enterprise? Because what I'm seeing when I'm on social media reading, thinking in the reports or articles, is either global brands are doing something, or there are quantum specific startups who are doing something.
Right.
But I don't see county councils or schools or, you know, medium business like 5,000 employees appearing in the news very often. So that's why I'm asking, is the investment, you know, and is quantum offering better suited just for enterprise currently, or again,
No,
your
it's across the
opinion?
board. So if you see, again, IBM has done a very good job in promoting quantum computing at the high school level. They have a special program for high schools. And the advantage, I think we are in a great age today because of cloud. Without cloud being there, quantum computing might not be as accessible to people across the world. I mean, me being in India and being able to access a quantum computer in the IBM platform right across the world is unbelievable. It was not possible a few years back. I envision a world where quantum computings will be still owned by larger enterprises like IBMs and Googles and Amazons, but they will give it off on the cloud system, which will make it accessible for people around the world because through internet. And there'll be more work on the application of quantum computing because people don't have to worry about the hardware of quantum computing as much. So that will happen. And that will create a whole revolution of new generation, number one. Number two, I think very important is certain countries, let's say, for example, who are lagging behind in the AI world, lagging behind in the new technology world, they have an opportunity to leapfrog and enter quantum right away without going through the evolution of classical computing and AI and do it. There's a huge opportunity out there. Countries like India are investing into quantum computing. China is doing huge things in quantum computing.
Oh yeah, there is a big competition going on.
Yeah, so there'll be a global flourishing of quantum computers, quantum computing algorithms, quantum computing users, people everywhere. But I think the key thing is we have to wait, and we don't have to wait to start experimenting today, so that we are part of the wave rather than sitting on the periphery and seeing the wave happen.
Fantastic. Well, and on that note, I like to massively thank you, Sudeept, for joining SOC Optimization, taking part, and sharing fantastic, very interesting thoughts. I'm sure the listeners will be thinking, aha, so where am I in this journey? You know.
Great.
So thank you so much.
Absolutely pleasure, Emma. Thank you so much.